South Koreans are voting for their next president. The two main candidates have been to the ballot boxes to cast their votes. Conservative Saenuri Party candidate Park Geun-hye is trying to become South Korea's first female president. Opinion polls suggest she has a slight lead over her center-left rival Moon Jae-in. Let's go live now to Harry Fawcett, who's in the South Korean capital, Seoul. And Harry, how tight is this race?
It's a very tight race. The National Election Commission is telling us not to expect a result until later than usual, possibly well after midnight. The most recent polls we had a week ago, because they can't be published in the week up to voting day, saw Park Geun-hye's lead shrinking to within the margin of error. Still ahead of Moon Jae-in, a Liberal opponent, but the Democratic United Party of Moon say that their candidate has enjoyed a late uptick in support. Now, both of these candidates, they're big personalities, but they're linked to even bigger personalities. In Park Geun-hye's case, she's the daughter of Park Chung-hee, the dictator from 1961 to 79. She stood in for her late mother after her mother's assassination as sort of de facto First Lady, so she's remembered with some fondness, especially by the elderly in the electorate, and that period is remembered as one of real economic transformation. So she carries that legacy, but also the legacy of some of the abuses and the political repression of that time. She's had to distance herself from her father's role in that, even apologizing to some of the victims of some of those abuses. Now, one of those victims was indeed her opponent, Moon Jae-in. He was a political activist during that period. He was jailed for protesting against the Park regime. He's also a former Special Forces soldier, a former human rights lawyer, and a former chief of staff to the Liberal president, Roh Moo-hyun. Now, he's also found himself having to distance himself from some of the failures of that administration. Both of these candidates, in terms of issue, are really trying to show themselves as economic rebalancers, expanding the welfare state, taking some of the power and the wealth away from the huge conglomerates, the chaebols, both going for a pretty narrow area of undecided voters on that regard. And that's why turnout will be so important, especially turnout among Moon's largely younger supporters. It's the coldest election day since the first one in 1987. It's -8 now. Turnout is so far a bit higher than the previous two elections, and that will be key in deciding the fate of this election.
Okay, Harry, stay warm. Thanks very much. Harry Fawcett live for us from Seoul with the latest on the South Korean presidential election.